Vital plans for successful sailing.
And welcome to the Sailing My Magic channel. My name is Duke and I am solo sailing Magic, my 2015 Lagoon catamaran, around the world.
It's often said that a rudderless ship rarely reaches port.
This guide will help you make plans even though this is new to you.
People that have plans are much more efficient and much faster than people that don't have plans. I set up this guide so that you could answer the questions and help yourself formulate your own plans. I would highly suggest that you get a pen and paper and jot down the answers to the questions that I'm asking, either the first time or the second time that you watch the video. I think if you do that, you'll have a much higher chance of succeeding at having fun and achieving your goals. My videos are short and to the point so that you can watch them all the way through and pick up all the little tidbits of information that I'm giving you. Don't buy the biggest boat that you can afford. You need to set aside money for repairs, new equipment, and for the trip itself. In addition, bigger boats are harder to handle, and everything connected with them is usually charged by the foot. A slip is charged by the foot, painting the bottom is charged by the foot, going through the Panama Canal is by the foot, so bigger is not necessarily better.
The cheapest boats are not usually a bargain. There are hidden costs.
Don't overestimate how much work you can do yourself. Boat parts cost more than car parts or house parts. Keep it simple, keep it smaller, and go sooner.
Don't get cheap when the cost of a survey comes up.
When you want to buy a boat, always get a survey. A survey is a professional evaluation of the condition of the boat. It will often turn up things that you weren't aware of that are wrong with the boat or will need some attention, and you will have a much better idea of where you stand once you do purchase the boat. Or you can decide not to purchase the boat if too many things turn up. When you do go to buy a boat, you'll generally get a better price if you have the cash readily available. I don't mean take a whole bunch of cash into a foreign country. You can wire it into an escrow account. An escrow account is a really good idea to protect you from somebody just walking away with the money. Yacht World is one of the biggest online collections of listings. This will give you a good idea of prices and features on the different boats. That will help you start your selection process. In addition, there are also for sale by owner sites. These are sometimes cheaper, but they may not be as well vetted before they go online. There are also places like Rio Dulce in Guatemala or Grenada, or even Panama, where people have gotten partway through a cruise and decided to give up. So sometimes you can get a real bargain there, though some work may be required. And lastly, at boat yards, very often people will put a boat into a yard and maybe the person dies and the family doesn't know what to do with the boat, or some other catastrophe happens. Guy has a heart attack or something, can't continue. So the boats get left there for a while, and after a while they just want to get rid of them. You can get a real bargain there, but those boats usually take a lot more work. What you don't want to do is get a free boat. Generally, not always, but almost always, free boats mean they've sat there forever and there are major things wrong with them. There are 4 different types of boats. Monohulls, that means one hull. Catamarans, which have 2 hulls. Trimarans, which have 3 hulls. And then there are motorboats. You can learn something in all 4 different types of boats. The biggest advantage that I see in a monohull is that you can point more easily into the wind. In a monohull, you can often go about 35 degrees off of a headwind. In a catamaran, you're going to be going about 60 degrees off of a headwind. That means when you tack back and forth in a catamaran, you're going to be describing a wider arc, and it's going to take you longer to get somewhere in a headwind. On the other hand, storage space on a monohull is extremely limited. You will often be taking things out, putting them away, take them out, put them away. Whereas a catamaran, there's a lot more opportunities to store stuff. I mean, you don't want to overload a catamaran, but you don't have to take things out and put them away as often. Another big advantage on the catamaran is that you can easily put your dinghy on a davit behind the catamaran, whereas in a monohull, it's often very difficult. You're often raising your dinghy by a halyard onto the front deck. That can be a real problem, and it creates some storage space problems. The usual solution to that, a lot of monohull owners will put the dinghy in the water and let it trail behind their boat. That's often a theft problem, whereas in a catamaran, it's up in the air and it's strapped in, so it's less chance of being stolen. Very often, monohulls are cheaper. There's many older monohulls around, and if it's kept in good condition, which is a big if, it may be worthwhile to have the monohull for its inexpensive price. Catamarans are expensive, but you're looking at 2 hulls, 2 engines, 2 rudders, not quite, but almost 2 of everything. That means a little bit more maintenance on the catamaran also. But a catamaran is often much more stable in the water because of the 2 hulls. It spreads it out. And catamarans maneuver much more easily in tight spaces, where when you're in a marina and you have to turn to go into a slip, with the 2 widely spaced engines on a catamaran, you can pivot in one spot, slide nicely into the slip, whereas in a monohull, some of them have a bow thruster. If you don't have a bow thruster, you have a real problem timing it just right to get into the slip, especially if there's a crosswind or a current. Been there, done that. It is really challenging sometimes. I could go on and on. There's many differences between a monohull and a catamaran, other than both being sailboats. Oh, I should mention one other thing. Catamarans, the sail plan goes by a table. Because a catamaran does not tilt to the side, it cannot spill wind off of the sails. So if you have very heavy winds and you don't reef the sails properly, it can take the whole mast down. So you look at the table, you look at what the wind speed is, and you reef according to the table. On a monohull, the boat can pivot to the side, it rolls, and that will spill the wind out and make it less of a chance of losing the mast. On the other hand, a lot of people get really seasick when the boat rolls a lot, and monohulls do roll a lot. So you take your choices. The experience on different types of boats will help you to decide what type of boat you need. Motor boats generally have a limited range. Trimarans are fairly uncommon, so that leaves you mostly with monohulls and catamarans, and both of those have pros and cons each way. How are you going to learn how to sail? There are lots of YouTube videos on how to sail. YouTube is free. Check out some books at the library. Read some books online. Get a friend to teach you how to sail. Volunteer to crew. Take some ASA 101 classes, which, by the way, will give you a discount with certain insurance companies. There are many different ways to volunteer to crew. First, I would go to a local yacht club and volunteer to help somebody fix up their boat, with the provision that you be allowed to go sailing with them when it's completed. When you get some experience, you can volunteer on racing boats. You can also volunteer for a delivery cruise. What are you going to do for money? Can you live off your Social Security payments? Do you have money set aside? Do you have a job you can do remotely? Are you going to sell your home to have money set aside? Are you going to be able to cut out wasteful things like cigarettes, high fashion, and drugs? What are your long-term and short-term goals? Do you want to sail short distances now so you can learn how to sail and long distances later? Are your kids grown up and it's me time now? Please click on like and subscribe if you haven't already. It's totally free and it really does help me. Sit yourself down and jot some notes. What are your hopes and plans? Do you want to retire and relax? Do you want the adventure of your life before you're too old to enjoy it and go out and do it? Do you want the freedom to go out anywhere you want to go? Now it's time for the Sailor's Delight, a Sundowner.